Um, I'm sorry I've been away for a little while. A number of people contacted me and wondered what was going on. I was just distracted, and I've been able now to get back to doing my videos. And I don't think the distraction that I just went through will happen again in the near future. But I think it'll be ongoing for a while. I'm actually talking about the election fraud that's occurring. It's really disturbed me, and I'm going to just, I think I've kind of gotten used to my understanding. I knew corruption in this world. You know, the videos I want to do coming up have to do with all sorts of things, and a lot of them have to do with cover-ups. UFOs and USOs, unidentified flying objects and unidentified submersible objects have been around in my world forever. I've been aware of them forever. I mean, in the sense of studying them. I've been doing it since I was 12 years old. I got a story I can tell you about in the first video I ever do about it. Very interesting about being well, it's another whole story. The point, but that's been a cover-up for years and years and years by our government. All sorts of things are covered up. You go back to the Kennedy assassination, that was a cover-up. You could go to the Gulf of Tonkin, that was a cover-up. I don't trust the government. I don't trust virtually anybody or anything. I think the world is corrupt. I think it's full of mystery and deceit. I've never been a religious person. Well, I mean, except for when I was a kid. But, I mean, lately I've almost been thinking of going back to church, and I guess I'd go as an agnostic and even tell the guy there, or what I call in my religion, I guess, Episcopalian. I like Episcopalianism because it's kind of like Catholic light. And really, you could even say it's not even virtually related to Catholicism anymore at all. I mean, I'm talking about the Reformation and things like that. I'm talking about the Church of England, and I mean, that's something we could talk about. So many things to talk about. Have you known that some cases, like the O.J. Simpson case, there's updates about that, the pretty confirmed updates to tell us much more of what really happened. John Benet Ramsey, updates about that. Remember that old case? What else are there things to talk about? I mean, ancient civilizations, you know, the great flood that was a real flood, the deluge, you know, that was in the Bible, but transcended the Bible, transcended basically the people of the world. Could that have some relation to the aquatic ape theory? I mean, there are so many things that go on that could be talked about. Dyatlov Pass. Have you ever heard about the Dyatlov Pass mystery? Where the Russian college kids go hiking in the mountains and are found all frozen, all in different places around their tent, which was shredded from the inside. This is during blizzard. This is during sub-zero, or at least sub-freezing temperatures. They were all found frozen, and it looks like they escaped from inside the tent, actually cut their way out. What happened? That's weird. There are updates on that. There are so many updates and things going on in the world, and right now we're going through this fraudulent election, and I think we're living in historic times. You and me and everybody else, we're living through an historic period, and I think we're yet to see some really, really heavy stuff coming down the pike. Someone told me to not really get into this when I do a video. I can't not get into it because it's just going to be part of my world coming up. I got a little chafed by it. I'm still chafed by it, and we'll see what happens with that. But back to the GPS solve. People contacted me and they said, Eric, what do you think about this GPS solve? And this article came out. This article came out and it discussed the GPS solve. It's a pretty good article. I'll put the link in, of course. It talks about the entire solve, the chase. But it ends talking about this GPS solve. And I didn't really know the history of the GPS solve or how it even got off the ground, to the fact where Calazar and Capra were doing this whole thing that they did that some people were irritated by. I'll give my reasons. I think it's contrived. I'll give my reasons, my logic to that. But first of all, let's just kind of get into what's going on with this GPS solve that has some people talking a lot. what was I thinking? I went and watched K-Pro and Cal talking about it because people were asking me about, have you seen this? Have you seen that? And, and I wanted to say this is really interesting. In one of their latest videos, they actually talked about K-Pro at one point. She's just getting kind of barraged by people, and they're saying, this has nothing to do with the chase, and this isn't how you're supposed to look for the treasure, and it isn't. The GPS solve has nothing to do with the chase. It has nothing to do with the way we were always thinking we were supposed to look for the treasure. It has nothing to do with what Forrest Fenn was telling us to do for years and years and years to find the treasure. I think that's a reason a lot of people have been upset. And, excuse me. Oh, God, I hope I don't have COVID. And it was funny, though. I'm watching that, and she's kind of like, K-Pro will sometimes just go, if you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. And, good for her. I mean, I could understand that. They have their channel. They're doing their thing. If they're making up stuff, so be it. If they're not making it up, so be it. I don't know. Can't confirm it. So tired of this can't confirm dilemma we're always in. So anyway, she's telling people, look, if you don't want to go along with the GPS solution, we don't care. And at one point, she kind of let her guard down and she goes, let's put it this way. If we do a video where we are talking about Forrest Fenn and the chase, a live video stream, we get about 140 people watching like we have right now. She's referring to the stream that she was doing at the moment. She goes, if we do a live stream about one of our other treasure hunts, we get about 40 people watching. That's why we're doing it. She kind of gets in here. That's why we're doing it. I was like, okay, that's cool. At least she admits it. It's all, to me, a lot of it just seems to be about views and subscribers. Now, I am so lucky to have 700, almost 800 subscribers. Quite frankly, I'm shocked because I've been very self-absorbed, and I say I'm going to do a video in a week and then I don't, things like that. People have held on for whatever reason. People say they like the videos, obviously, and of course some people maybe they just forgotten they subscribed. But I'm not always pushing to get subscribers, and although you should subscribe, but it's not like it's part of my financial plan if I ever got monetized. And I realize they are monetized, and other people are monetized. And I guess if you're, and that's the point of why I'm bringing this up, I guess if you're monetized and you're used to making, some people make thousands of dollars in a month when they're huge, huge, huge. Other people make 100 or 200 a month or $50 a month. I guess we're used to that coming in. It's nice to keep it coming in, right? I'm not going to slam that. If I ever got to the point where I was making a couple of $100 a month just doing what I enjoy doing anyway, which is kind of a hobby. Well, do you guys remember Man Alone? Man Alone's an interesting guy. I never could understand his videos because they would always get very mystical and cryptic, and I would always turn them off. But a lot of people really liked Man Alone a lot. I don't even know what Man Alone is doing right now. But Man Alone once was talking about monetizing. I think he was over 1,000 subscribers at the time, and people would ask him, are you monetized? He'd go, no. He goes, right now all I'd really get's about maybe enough for groceries. And I thought, what's wrong with getting enough for groceries? I never understand that. All right, back to the point. It's Tober doing that. He's licking. He's making things move around. So anyway, I know I get off the track all the time. So what is a GPS solution? The GPS solution, in this case, is the concept that you go to the poem and you look at the poem, you look at the words in the poem, and you determine from words in the poem that they're numbers. You derive numbers from words in the poem. It's called homophones. So here's what the story is. Here's the story of the GPS solve according to, I guess it'd be fair to say, according to Mike Callan. Why am I surprised? Why am I surprised that this would be something Mike might have come up with? All right, so here is how the GPS off goes. I'm reading from this article that, like I said, I've got a link to. This is what prompted a number of people to contact me, either in the comments in my videos or actually wrote me emails and text messages. I would say it's always something new that I get a newer amount of people, a bigger amount of people. This GPS solved thing, I got a lot of people contact me. I mean, for me, that's like a handful, maybe a little more than it, maybe 5, 6, 7. I mean, that's a lot for me. I mean, I've got under 800. I've got, I don't have a huge channel. So when you get a handful, when you get a number of people, hey, what do you think of this specific thing? For me, that's a big deal. So people were really cheesed off. What would cheesed off mean? Now that's another word I could look up. Cheesed off. Is that an English expression? I don't really understand. I mean, cheese? What has that got to do with being pissed off? Cheesed off? I'll have to look that up. Okay, and then put it up here, assuming I can find it. Okay, here's the GPS solution. This is how it comes to be. And of course, was put out by Cal and K-Pro. When Fenn announced the discovery of the treasure back in June, K-Pro's partner, Mike Callan, had been contacted by someone who apparently knew who the finder was. As proof, the source tipped Callan off to the Medium post the week before it went up. Posey, this is this guy Justin Posey who's involved in the GPS solve. He came into work with Cal and Mike and Cynthia Meacham. Justin Posey. It's another case there where you'll see, I'll just get into it. Mike Callan had been contacted by someone who apparently knew who the finder was. As proof, the source tipped Callan off to the Medium post the week before the article went up in Medium.com. I'm paraphrasing here and having to add a little to make it more understandable. Posey would later hear that the source had at one time belonged to a group of searchers who met online and collaborated on a possible homophone-based solve. Supposedly, the finder was one of a smaller team who eventually cracked the puzzle, and the source was evidently bitter about being excluded from sharing in the spoils. So here's the setup. There supposedly was a group of people who were doing a homophone-based, I keep wanting to say homophobe, but there's nothing wrong with that. Or no, I guess it's the other way around. You're supposed to say when you talk about homosexuals, remember the joke was whenever you mention it, you would go, but there's nothing wrong with that in our PC culture. Homophone solved anyway, homophone solved. Homophone solved, again, you determine numbers, and the numbers were supposed to be coordinates in a GPS solve. So you get a longitude and a latitude, and that's your solve. You get the numbers from the poem, and you figure out longitude 40, altitude 75 or whatever. I don't even know. I never used GPS. And that takes you straight to it. Totally bypasses the whole concept, right, of following clues, following geographical spots to get to the end, which is what Forrest always said you're supposed to do to find the treasure. Of course, that's what most of us did do. So you have a group of people working on this GPS solve, and this guy who contacted Mike Callan supposedly knows the finder because he worked with the finder. He was working on a team to find this GPS location. And somehow Okay, it says he belonged to a group of searchers who met online and they would collaborate on the solve. The finder was involved in a smaller team who eventually cracked the puzzle. So you have the finder and a bunch of other people who are trying to crack this homophone solve. They're all online. They're not meeting personally. And the writer-finder, we're talking about the guy who wrote the article on medium.com, supposedly the writer-finder, he and a smaller group of people, they figure out where the location is. This other guy who tells Mike Callan what's going on with the GPS solve, he's left out. And he realizes that the finder in this little group of his, so it's a group of people who claim to have found the treasure spot, he claims that they didn't give any of the credit to any other people online who had been helping to figure out this solve. And he's cheesed off about it. Now, again, we have one of these confirmation issues that plagues this whole thing. We had it with, Forrest Fenn said that finder didn't want the location shown. He was kind of ambivalent. But then when the finder writes his article, the writer-finder, he says Forrest Fenn didn't want the location revealed, and that's why he isn't going to say where it is. No confirmation, because now Forrest is dead. When Forrest was saying that, when the finder supposedly, they were both alive, the finder wasn't saying anything about anything. Then Forrest Fenn dies, and the finder decides to speak up, even though he wants to be anonymous. Can you imagine his lawyer? You're going to do what? You're going to write an article on medium.com. Why? I just want to, just say how much I like Forrest Fenn and say things like Forrest didn't want me to reveal the location, and that's why I'm not going to reveal the location. When of course Forrest said the opposite. But now we can't confirm it because Forrest is dead. I mean, let's face it, when Forrest died, the whole thing died. All that we have to figure out now that I'm very interested in figuring out is, and that's one of the reasons I keep reading things people send me, is, where's the treasure chest? Is there really a finder? Was the guy who wrote the article, the writer-finder, really the finder? I don't think he was, but who is the finder if there's really a finder? Or did the Fenn estate retrieve the chest on their own like a lot of people think, which I think is a pretty good possibility too. I'm still 50-50. There could be a real finder. The Fenn estate could have retrieved it. Those are all very valid things I want to figure out. Things like coming up with, we found the location, we can't prove it, we can't confirm anything, but this is what we think is the location. Yeah, it gets you some views. Maybe it even gets you some subscribers, although I'm not even sure what the end point of that is, because in the end, it's just, how much interest can you keep churning up about this very nondescript, boring-ass place out in the woods that supposedly is where Forrest Fenn hid the treasure chest that's now not even there? There are pictures of it. I'm not going to show the pictures because technically those are copyrighted. But believe me when I tell you, you can go look them up. I'm sure they're on Calazar or Capro or whatever. And it's just a very, very... there's just nothing special about the special spot at all. And of course, Fenn once said, he said, it may be more special to me than you. You may not see what makes it so special. Part 2 coming up in a second.